They talk about transgender athletics or transgenders and how that applies to athletics. Talk about international students that come over and what we need to be aware of with that, because that does happen a lot with the different school districts around. So those are some of the things that in school law that we will get counsel with.
My next guest is the executive director of an organization that works hand in hand with the Coaches Association. I will introduce you to Rusty Dowling, executive director of the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association, right after this.
Hi, listeners. This is Glenn West, the Assistant Executive Director of Texas High School Coaches Association. It's time to register for coaching school. This year's coaching school will be held in San Antonio, July 21st through the 23rd. And in addition to the 250 lecture hours that we offer, we'll be adding a second turf field that will allow soccer, baseball, and softball demos. Tennis, aquatic, and golf will be off-site for one day of exhibits as well. Basketball court will be moved from a half court to a full court. You're all not going to want to miss this. You can find information of coaching school and hotels and membership renewal on our website at THSADA.com.
Did you know that you can use podcasting to not only share the great news about your athletes and your programs, but as a fundraiser for your booster club? Yes, Lone Star Gridiron produced the 5th podcast in history and has been doing it nearly 20 years. We are expanding now to do shows outside of football. So whatever your sport, reach out to us at 713-269-4620, and we'll discuss how you can use this amazing tool to supercharge your program. And the best part, we do all the heavy lifting. Text your name and school to 713-269-4620. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Rusty Dowling to the show. Coach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Chris. Good to talk to you today.
Oh, you too. And I have to start off with you being a Valley boy. Talk about how you got involved with athletics and all that down in the Valley.
Well, Chris, that was back in 1982. I happened to be coaching up in the Midwest at a college called Morningside University, and the coaches all started to split up and go their various ways. They were all taking other jobs. And I was getting ready to go up and interview for the offensive line job at the University of North Dakota. And I was all set to do that because I wanted to stay in college coaching. Then a really good friend of mine, David Lee, who was a high school football coach in Omaha, Nebraska, called me up because Omaha was my recruiting area. He called me up and he said, I got I just took a high school job down in Mission, Texas, and I know you're looking for a job. Why don't you come on down and coach with me in Mission? And I very foolishly at the time said, no, I'd prefer to coach college football. I don't really want to coach high school football. Well, I was in Iowa, and to me, I was equating high school football to what they do in Iowa, which is good football. Right. But I said, thanks, but no thanks, David. I'm going to go and interview, and I've got a good shot of getting this job in North Dakota. He said, well, think about it, and I'll call you back tomorrow. And I said, okay. So thankfully, he called me back. He told me how much money I'd make, what classes I would teach, and what sports I would coach. And Chris, the very next day, I was on an airplane flying to McAllen, Texas. I left Omaha. It was 27 degrees. I got to McAllen. It was 78. And haven't really looked back since. So that's how I got down there. That's how I got there.
And tell me about what an eye-opener it was to discover how Texas high school football is so much different than the rest of the country.
Well, it was interesting because back then I didn't have a big teaching load. I only taught 2 classes in the morning, and then I had the rest of the day to work on football. That was unusual for me. That was the first thing. The second thing is I had no idea what an athletic period was. You know, I can remember I saw the kids coming over to the field house during the day, and I thought, well, I wonder what's going on. And David told me, he said, we have athletic period just starting. And what's athletic period? And so that was something else. And then we had spring football. And I'd never, except for when I was coaching college football, nobody in high school had spring football. And then we went out and we played our spring game. I remember this very well, Chris. We played our spring football game at Mission, and we had 5,000 people in the stands. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. Going out for a spring game, and of course at the time, Mission, it was just one high school. It was just one school town, and they supported football like it was unbelievable in Mission. But I'll never forget going out there and seeing the stands full for a spring game. That was incredible.
Excellent. And then how does your career segue from teaching and coaching and Mission to the Athletic Directors Association? That seems like a big jump.
Well, it was a big jump, bigger than what I thought it was going to be. Well, you know, I started off as an assistant, the offensive coordinator at Mission. Great place, loved the Valley. Then took over as the head coach for a couple of years. David tragically passed away. Then I went to San Antonio, John Jay, for 2 years as the head football coach. And then I had the opportunity to come over to Texas City because they were looking for an athletic director and head football coach. And it was about that time that I was kind of looking at athletic administration a little bit. And I don't even know what that meant at the time because I wasn't that well invested into exactly what went into athletic administration other than, I think I'd like to be an AD head football coach. So I got the job, was here for 10 years in Texas City. And then where it really started to turn for me, Chris, was after we had won our second state championship in Texas City. That's when I started thinking I'd like to move along in my career into athletic administration. So I made a move to McKinney. And when I got to McKinney, I had discussed with the superintendent the idea of coach for 2 years, and then I would move into full-time of athletic administration, which I did. So I coached 2 years. We opened up North High School, and then we were building Boyd High School, and I was the athletic director at the time. And then Katie ISD called, and when Katie ISD calls, you answer. And I came down to Katie ISD, and I spent 8 years as the athletic director in Katie ISD. And then in 2012, I had the opportunity to move into this role as the executive director of the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association. So that's what I did, Chris. I moved in March of 2012, and I've been here ever since.
Nice. And talk about the shift mentally, because you go from talking and helping influence kids to suddenly now you're helping influence coaches who are influencing even more kids.
Right. What I did is I went from influencing kids as a coach to influencing coaches as an AD, and now as an executive director, influencing athletic directors. And so it's just been a progression up. It is definitely a change. You know, Joe Martin, Glenn, and I talk about this, how incredibly different being an executive director is than being like an athletic director or head coach. It's unbelievably different. Now, at the time when I first got into it, Chris, I didn't know that. And I had a big learning curve because prior to me being the executive director, our association was entirely a volunteer organization. We had no permanent or full-time employees. I was the first one. And so I had to figure out how to operate, basically a nonprofit organization and move it forward. So it was a big learning curve. It was a big adjustment going from influencing kids to coaches to now ADs. So it's been an interesting journey.
Well, yeah, excellent. Let's talk about that first transition. You see a lot of coaches, head football coaches / ADs all over the state till you get to the bigger schools, and then they have a standalone athletic director or even a boys AD or girls AD. Talk about how that has changed over time.
It's changed tremendously, even since I've been in it. And I've noticed probably the last 8 years, I've seen a strong shift in how that all occurs. I'll give you an example. I can remember years ago when, having a female athletic director, there were some out there. There weren't a lot of them. There were some out there. But that's changed tremendously over the years. Mm-hmm. I know at one time, I think it was last year, we did a survey in our association about how many women were the athletic director, not a campus athletic coordinator or anything like that, the district athletic director. And I think the tally was 36. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but the majority of them were 6A, 5A, and 4A, the larger school districts. And so that was a pretty significant thing. And more, you're seeing more and more women that are moving up into the assistant AD role and now going up into the athletic director role. And just in my case, too, when I was athletic director in Katy, my number one assistant was Debbie Decker, who, when I left, ended up taking over the job in Katy and has since retired. So that dynamic has changed tremendously. And then, two, going from coaching into athletic administration, it was interesting, Chris, because I had a conversation a couple of years ago with an individual I know very, very well who wanted to get into athletic administration. They'd been coaching football, and they wanted to get into athletic administration, thinking it might just be a little bit easier. Little did they know, I remember the comment that individual made to me was, I didn't realize there is no off season for an athletic director.
Right.
There is none. And that's very true. There is no off season for an athletic director. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. And talk about, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've seen the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association convention grow drastically. It is a totally different creature than it was, so far ago. Talk about the growth of that and the changes there.
Yeah, that has been interesting too. I remember my very first event conference as the executive director was in San Angelo. We had gone out to San Angelo, and the folks that were in the decision-making positions prior to me arriving as the executive director decided, let's take it out west and see if we can generate some more attendance. And to be honest, I don't know that we did or didn't. I really don't know at the time. But I can recall our trade show. When we opened up our trade show, we had 54 exhibit booths. And we have since, and we just completed it here just a couple days ago, we're at 180 exhibit booths in this state conference for this year, which is a large trade show. So from that perspective, we've increased tremendously. The attendance, the day I took over members, I remember distinctly we had 238 members of the AD Association. And now we're over 1,500 members in the AD Association. And, not only do we have a really robust state conference where we offer a lot of professional development opportunities for athletic administrators. We've got a aspiring athletic administrators academy called Quad A for all those that are interested in being an athletic administrator. We give them a window to look into to see what that looks like. We've got a professional development program for junior high coordinators now that we're starting for the first time this year. So our conference has grown considerably. We had 125 attendees that first year, I believe, and now we're close to 700 attending the conference. Plus, Chris, we have two other events. We have an event in October called Fall Forum, and then we have an event in the spring called Showcase, and they average about anywhere from 250 to 300 people attending that as well. So you are exactly right. The conference has really picked up over the years, gotten bigger, more folks involved, more businesses involved. It's really turned into a really, really good event for us.
Definitely. And your relationship with the Texas High School Coaches Association, while in the past there was no real animosity, it was just kind of like they were just different. But now it seems like y'all are working a lot closer together.
Oh, we absolutely are. Yeah. THSCA is, the finest organization of its type in the country. I mean, the things that Joe and Glenn and Libby and Brian and DW before and all of them, I mean, it was tremendous. There are so many moving parts to THSCA. I kid them all the time. I said, I don't know how you get everything done. It's almost like they need 12 more people in that office to get things done. They work hard. They do a great job. They're good people. They've got good, solid programs. They certainly are what Texas high school athletics is all about. And it's been really good. It's been really, really good working with them. I think both associations work very well together. We term ourselves an athletic administration type of organization. They're a coaching organization, but we mix well. We're involved in some really critical projects together. And so many of our members are members of THSCA, as I am.
Yeah.
And so many of their members are members of ours. So we work and gel really, really, really well together. In fact, I was just on a call yesterday with Joe. And in fact, we're going to get back together on Monday. So, yeah, it's a really good working relationship, Chris. Very positive.
Excellent. And you mentioned you're up to around 1,500 members. Does that mean there are 1,500 athletic directors and campus coordinators, or are these also people who maybe are coaches now and looking to get into the AD role?
Yeah, we have different levels of membership. I would say most of our members are athletic administrators in some degree. They're either a district AD, an AD head football coach, or an AD head basketball coach, a campus athletic coordinator, a junior high coordinator. In some way, shape, or form, they have athletic administrative responsibilities. One group that has we've seen open up and joining is school superintendents are joining the association and becoming part of us. I know we have a superintendent's council called our STAC committee that we rely on quite a bit for our professional development, input rather, and just in general ideas on how we operate our association. So our membership kind of covers a lot of different areas. And then too, we'll get, just coaches that want to get into athletic administration someday, and they might be a seventh grade coach or a JV football coach or something, but they certainly can join our association as well.
Excellent. And you talk about staff development. Now, what sort of issues do your members face that maybe a typical doesn't hit the radar for a coach that's just a coach?
Good question, Chris. Well, I'll start off with the first one, and this is at our state conference, and it's always the very first thing we talk about on Sunday is Texas School Law for Athletic Administrators. And it doesn't have an exciting title, But anything and everything to do with Texas school law as it pertains to athletic administrators, that is what we kick off every conference with, because it's that important. It's that important. And we'll have different attorneys come and talk to the athletic administrators about it. And it's always a packed house for that one. So that's one example. Of course, we have a lot of UIL involvement at our state conference as well.
Right.
You know, things such as, well, like this year, we're deviating a little bit. We've got some university athletic directors coming in to sit on a panel to talk to us about NIL and transfers, because we know, in fact, that's an issue Joe and I talk about quite a bit, how that's going to affect Texas high school athletics moving forward. Give you an example. We'll talk about athletic department organization and management, developing a head coaches academy, which a lot of our folks do. Best business practices. One of the things that's so important to us is, you know, preparing an annual budget, how you pay your game workers, how you pay officials, those kind of things. Event emergency plans that we have. Athletic directors are responsible for the venues, and then if something happens, that AD is also responsible for the reaction to that, whatever that may be. So those are some of the things that we do regarding any professional development for athletic directors. One big session that we do have, as you can well imagine, is recruiting and retention of athletic personnel. Because one of the things that we talk about a lot is how everybody's hurting for coaches. And then when you do get them, how do you keep them? So those are some of the things that athletic administrators will discuss throughout the course of our conference. And those are topics that we discuss throughout the course of the year. We have, Chris, what we call region meetings, and they're monthly meetings. And I just got back from one Wednesday in Houston, and some of the things that occur, it's so different than a coaching clinic, you know, because the topics were entry fee agreements and administrators on duty. And those are very robust conversations that athletic administrators have. Now, you're probably not going to hear much of that at a coaching clinic, but at an athletic administrators gathering, that's the topic of conversation.
Excellent. And you talk about the laws that apply to athletic directors. What are some recent laws that maybe coaches or parents might not be aware of that y'all have to deal with?
Well, you know, in fact, I haven't read it today. I just haven't had time to read it today. But I just got something from a lobbyist who works for high school athletic directors. There's been a new revision to Title IX, and it's incumbent upon athletic directors to know what that is. And again, I just got it just not too long ago. But I will have a conversation with Jim Walsh, who comes and does our Sunday evening talk with us about, you know, Title IX. I know that's going to be a big topic Sunday at our state conference is the new Title IX revision. And I'd like to get to the points of it, but I haven't read it yet, so I might not be accurate in what I talk about. You know, they talk about transgender athletics or transgenders and how that applies to athletics. Talk about international students that come over and what we need to be aware of with that, because that does happen a lot with the different school districts around. So those are some of the things that in school law that we will get counsel with. And then, two, how some of athletics applies to special ed and what some of the accommodations coaches and ADs have to make in those particular situations. So it is in fact, we dedicate 2 hours to Texas school law for athletic administrators. That's how important it is. And between now and then, who knows what's going to come up. But those 2 hours are real critical for athletic directors.
For sure. And you talked about recruiting and retaining coaches, officials. What is being done? What has been working to do that and be successful?
Well, one of the things that, in fact, I was at a meeting over at UIL not too long ago, and I'm sure you've heard about this, a lot of school districts are starting to implement officiating classes in their school districts, and they're trying to promote high school students, even at that early age, to become officials or to start getting involved in officiating. And I think it's a great move to be able to do that. In fact, ironically, Wednesday that was a discussion in the Houston athletic director meeting. They talked a little bit about that, and there's some school districts that are doing a really good job of that, and there's other school districts that are getting ready to implement that. And I know that will be a topic of conversation at our state conference as well with the officials. With the coaches, gosh, that's just a never-ending discussion on, what do you do? What's your methodology for hiring? Do you put a job out there and wait for the applicants, or do you get out and go and try to find the applicants? And so everybody's got a different philosophy on that and how they do that. And then how do you retain your coaches? What do you do to keep them in place? How does all that work? So those will be some great conversations that we're going to have. You'll have athletic directors, Chris, and I used to do this myself when I was at Katy. It was very rare I waited for resumes to come in. I would take off with our HR team because they were going to Dallas and San Antonio and El Paso and the Valley and wherever to the job fairs, and I would go along with them to try to hire coaches. And I know quite a few school districts are doing that as well. So it's a variety of methods, and interesting that we've evolved to that point, because I can remember a long time ago when it wasn't that hard to get coaches, but it's tough now. It's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing, Texas is known for producing some of the top high school athletes in all sports, and colleges recognize that. But it's the same thing for coaches. Colleges recognize that our coaches are better trained. Have you seen that with athletic directors as well?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I was at Texas City, and I was getting towards the end of my time in Texas City, and I was approached by a school district, a big school district, to see if I was interested in their AD job. And I was, but I also knew I had a great football team coming back. And so it was a really tough decision. I knew I wanted to get in athletic administration, but then I also knew, gosh, we're going to be pretty good next year, which we were. We ended up winning our second state title, and so I am glad I stayed. But I think about that, and I realize how unprepared I was to become a school district athletic director at the time. I had no clue what went into it at a big 6A, or at the time 5A level. And what I've seen is athletic administrators are more in tune with professional development, communicating with each other, establishing a really good business background, because you need to have that as an athletic director. And it's not all about, I know I'm one of the last beneficiaries of, you win a lot of football games, you get to go be an AD. And that's just not the case anymore. Your skill set has to be really, really good, because the people that are interviewing you for these athletic director jobs, they're a lot more skilled in what it takes to be a good AD. And winning football games is really important. It really is. But to become a really good athletic director, you better have a good skill set. And I see athletic administrators working on that all the time.
Yeah, and when you talk about high school coaches of any sport, they always say you've either been fired or you're going to be fired, depending on how you perform. Do you see that with athletic directors too? Do they have to now produce in every sport?
You can see it. The thing about an athletic administrator is there is no scoreboard. You know, there is no scoreboard, but the success of your athletic programs definitely figures into what your longevity in that particular school district is going to be. I know I felt that in Katy, and it was interesting because you had to juggle not one football program, but 6 or 7 of them. Not one basketball program, but 6 or 7 of them, or 14 of them with the boys and the girls. So it's really, really tough to do. But being successful isn't just limited towards head coaches. It also applies to athletic administrators as well. And that's something ADs we talk about quite a bit. You know, you'll have one school district that might be really good in girls basketball and another school district might not be. It is not unusual for that athletic director who's struggling in girls basketball to go to that AD who's really good in girls basketball and say, what are you doing? You know, what are your coaches doing? What are your campuses doing? How are they doing this? I see that a lot, and it's good, and that's something positive to do. But, yeah, the expectation on the athletic director is there. Maybe not as direct and as definitive as a head basketball coach or head volleyball coach, but it's still there.
And so does the Lone Star Cup that the UIL does, is that a big, you know, kind of a challenge that athletic administrators are all going for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as athletic administrators, you're always trying to vie for that number one spot, or at least consistently be in the top 10 of the Lone Star Cup. So, yeah, that's something that probably athletic administrators may pay more attention to than maybe coaches do. As far as important, I know as an AD in Katy, I know we were always in there, and I was always looking to see where are we this week, or you know where do we think we're going to be next week. So it does, it does to a certain degree, Chris. It sure does.
Yeah. Well, Rusty, gosh, I would love to sit and talk with you forever, but I know you've got to be somewhere, I've got to be somewhere, and I want to thank you so much for sitting down and sharing some time with me, though.
Chris, I appreciate what you do, and you know, it's a big help to Texas high school athletics, and anything we can do to promote and get our people out there is really good, and that's what you're doing, and I appreciate that very much.
The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSADA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSADA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSADA, visit www.thsca.com. Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You hear it for the great messages provided by the THSADA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSADA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Daly, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call.